double. Oh, you're very sweet. The truth is, I love what I do. I love all the people I meet, and I don't lie. So if I don't like something, I'm very honest, and I only like let people on the podcast. Okay, good. Oh, you're very sweet. Oh, you're the truth is, I love what I do. Okay, now let me go back to us. Let's hope this worked. Okay, yay. I think it's on, yeah, it's on YouTube. Yay. Okay, so now all those people who don't get on, you're very sweet. But I think the truth is, with anybody, if you just believe in what you do and you care, and I don't let people, I get every day people want to come on the podcast or they want me to sell things, but unless I 100% believe in it, I'm not going to share that. I just think that's so important. More pink. Oh, look at this. Let's see. I have to, Allison's in pink. Look at you. What is this? The pink day? We have cute hats we're wearing. Sharon's wearing a pretty hat. We are, what a pretty, do you paint, Sharon? That's so pretty, your picture in the background. How beautiful is that? Pretty, pretty. Okay, let me turn this off. Okay, silent. And I learned the other day, I always put it on, but I didn't put on my airplane mode. And my computer started ringing. I was like, are you kidding? That was new for me. But anyway, anyone wants to chat and just put in the chat where you're from. And I'd love to know if this is your first time coming on any class with me or your first time in the community. That would be fun to know. And let's see, what time is it? Okay, when Liam comes on, let me know. So I'll make you co-host. You might even be on already. And we're going to look to see how many people really are coming. Because as I said, I was telling people, 2,600 people registered for this class. And there's really only room for 1,000. But a lot of times people register and they just watch the replay. Yeah. Okay. So
let's. Margie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Is that you, Liam?
Yes, it's Monica.
Oh, Monica. Hi.
I just had a quick question. Can you remind all of us about the Maradyne vibration plate?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I get a discount on that too. And I have to ask them when, I will send with the replay exactly my discount. I love the Maradyne. If you're going to do it, and we can talk about that, but while you're asking the question now, I'll answer it. Other people may want to hear that later. But the Maradyne, it's a vibration plate and it's low intensity vibration. And that's the one I've used. Oh gosh, it's probably 8 years. It's expensive. It's over 3,000, I think now. So again, it's not, oh, wait, I'm just making Liam co-host. Hang on one second. Liam's my person, my man who does everything here. He'll be in the chat monitoring and helping, and he is so important here. All right, Liam, you are co-host. But anyway, about the Maradyne, let's see how much time do we have before we talk. Oh, should I just answer that? Well, I'll tell you real quickly. So I love it because it's low intensity and they've looked at the different parameters of the different machines and that one's safe. Some of the others, how much they shake, the gravitational force, like this one is just 0.4 hertz, is very different than these gravitational, than what the shaking ones. And they found that that level of vibration isn't even safe in the workplace. And so for even a short period of time, they found that not a lot of people, but there have been people with retinal detachments, it's shaking the brain. So I am not a believer in those because the signal of the Maradyne is the same it causes the mesenchymal stem cells to turn into bone instead of fat. So it does the trick. It doesn't replace exercise and it's only an adjunct, but I think it's good. I think there's been all sorts of things on showing that that's what it does. And so that's the one that I choose. And I've been using it, as I said, I do it every day for like 10 minutes. Ideally, they say twice a day, but once a day is good, at least once a day. Anyway, so I have a whole podcast on that. Maybe Liam will put that in the chat, a podcast on the vibration.
Okay.
We really go in detail, like why I like that one. But you know what? I will write myself, let me make my notes for myself. I will make notes to give you, they always give me during my summit a discount. Then they increase the discount. So let me find out what it is now. I was going to put it on my website and I didn't. So people are writing in the chat where they're from. And I'd love to know if it's your first time coming to any of these things in the community. That would be someone. So just let me know in the chat. And Liam, you can let me know too. Okay, so I'm going to find out the Maradyne discount, what is up to. I just want to double check so I don't give you wrong information. I'll put that when you'll get the replay of this and you'll get the slides too.
Okay, perfect.
So
Thank you
you
so
don't-
much for answering that.
Oh, sure,
It
sure.
just came up. I went to my doctor and she recommended the exercise program with weights and the low vibrational.
I'm such a big believer in it. And some of the things I'm not a big believer in, like some of the things out there, I'm not, and I'll tell you if I don't think it's good. Because to me it has to be safe. Number one, it has to be totally safe. Number two, it has to, I'm not going to let here's what I found. Some people are asking me if they can take notes or record. I have found it messes up my recording, but you will all get this recording and you will all get the slides. So I'm not going to let anybody, I'm sorry. I've too often done it and it's screwed up my recording. So, but I promise you, you'll get the recording and you'll get the slides because I know there's a lot of stuff on the slide. So it's so good when you just get the slides afterwards and you can, so I'm saying no, I'm sorry to all you people who are asking to record it, but it's messed me. It happened once and I said, I can't do that again. And, okay. So it's two. So we are going to start and whoever comes in, they come in. So I'm going to start this as I start all my classes. So I'm just going to hit record, everybody. And so you don't have to mute yet. Liam, you don't have to mute everyone yet because I'm going to ask you to do something. So this is how we start our classes and it's really fun, right, Liam? We have so much fun, don't we? And for all those people, a lot of you look like new faces. So just show me raise your hand so I can see some of you if you're new here. Oh, good. So good to welcome, welcome, welcome. That's so great. I love meeting new people and having you join. So much fun. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll give people a couple more minutes. I'm very prompt. Oh, I see people I know. Susan, hello. Good to see you. What a treat. Wow. It's always fun. All of a sudden in the crowd, I see somebody I know. Great. Okay, wonderful. All right, I guess we'll start. Everybody knows it's starting at 2. And okay, so I'm going to hit record. Let me get this started here. And hang on. Okay. Okay, so let me just change one more thing for a second. Hang on. Okay, so what we're going to do. Okay, so I am going to, all right. Okay, so I'm going to welcome everybody, but then we have a little opening we'll all do, so you don't have to mute quite yet. Welcome everybody to Strong Bones for Life. And this is Margie Bissinger. For those who don't know me, I'm a physical therapist, integrative health coach, and I also teach a happiness program. I've been working with osteoporosis and osteopenia for over 30 years. And the good news is so much that can be done. Okay, but what we're going to do now, I'm going to just change the view for a second. And so if you don't want your video shown, but this is so fun. So everybody, someone's a little noise. Okay, so you know what? I guess mute for a second, right? Okay. I hear someone. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. Put an intention out there today. Put an intention that you're going to get something from today that's going to make a big difference in your life. So just put an intention out there. I'm very much into thinking positively and put something out there that something you're going to hear that is going to help your bones or your overall health or just something. So put an intention out there. And then I always like to put your best energy. So on the count of 3, let's just, everybody, you can unmute if you're muted, say, hi, good energy. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hi, good
energy.
Good energy.
Okay.
Good energy.
Juices me up and we get the energy flowing because this is a positive. What we're talking about today is very, very positive. So that's the good news. I'm just going to change. Liam, you can mute everyone. Liam is going to be on the he's taking care of the chat. So let me tell you how today is going to work. So let me just fix this so it's not moving. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, here we go. So I have a presentation that I want to go through, and we're gonna talk about bone health and what you can do. So, because what I realized, this is osteoporosis month, and it's osteoporosis awareness and prevention. And what I realize is not everybody has all the tools. And the good news is because I've been doing this for so long, I really know what works, what doesn't work. And there's so much that can be done that a lot of people don't know about. That's why I started the podcast. And that's why I do all the work that I do, because I just want the word to get out there. And so actually, before I even start, do want to make a mention that with Dr. Kim Millman and I started a practitioner program. So if any of you are practitioners, we're teaching practitioners this integrative approach so they can use this with their patients. So there's still, it's just started and we only had the welcome call. So if anyone's still interested, Liam, you'll put it in the chat. It's just thebonehealthacademy.com. So if you are a practitioner and interested in learning how you can use this to work with your clients or patients, then just go there. Anyway, okay. So how it's going to work, it's probably around 45 minutes. I haven't timed it exactly. And then after that, I'm just going to talk to you about a couple other things, programs I have, and then we'll have the whole Q&A. So there should be around 45 minutes, for the Q&A. I figure it'll be 90 minutes approximately, the class. So for the Q&A, what I found the best way to get as many questions answered as possible is to just put a queue. So, because Liam's going to be monitoring the chat. And so to get as many, instead of asking everybody to come up, that takes time. So if you just write the question that you want answered in the chat, we'll do first come, first serve, or you may have a question as I go through the program. So just write them in the chat and then Liam will get to them afterwards. When I have a membership and we submit the questions ahead of time, but for a program like this, I found that this works the best. Okay. So, and if there's anything you need at all, just write it in the chat. I don't look at the chat while I do the program because it's just too hard for me, but Liam does. He's like, and he'll let me know. And Liam knows if there's anything if there's something you don't understand and you need to ask right away, put it in the chat and then Liam will ask me. Okay. So I am just going to share my slides and we will get started. So and Liam, where are people from? I'm just curious in the chat. I asked people to put it in the chat.
We have some people from Houston, Texas, Guadalupe, let's see, North Texas, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, woohoo, yeah.
Oh, from London, UK, first time here.
Oh, great.
Denver, Kansas, Gettysburg, South Carolina, New York City, our neck of the woods.
Our neck of the woods. Liam and I live in the East Coast, yeah.
Pretty much the whole world, Margie. Congratulations.
I love it. Isn't that, I know, it's funny because I recently for Osteoporosis Month I just volunteered to come to my health club and teach the instructors about osteoporosis. And it was like a live class, like, in person, which was nice. But I realized what's so fun about, because everything I do is online pretty much, is that, it's the whole world. Like how incredible that the whole world can be together. It's just quite something. Okay. So I'm going to share my slides and we will get started. Okay, let's get my picture up here. Okay, so can you see, Liam, my slides and me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Okay, so strong bones for life. So 4 keys to stronger, healthier bones at any age. And we see, look at her. Is that not a great role model? She's 105. No, I'm just teasing. I don't know how old she is. But the point is that I see this all the time, that if we do all these things, we get better as we get older. And it's really exciting and really empowering. So we can turn that fear of the diagnosis into empowerment because there's what we do for our bones is good for everything. So just a disclaimer, the information in this program, it should not be construed as medical advice, not intended to replace consultation with your physician or healthcare provider. So I'm going to give you basic information and you can utilize this, of course, but everybody's different. And so just know that, use it to help you in every way you can, but it's not considered medical advice for you. So our objectives today, by the end of this talk, you'll learn what are these 4 keys to improve your bone health. You'll understand some of the common root causes of bone loss and testing that's overlooked. We'll talk about the most important nutrients and supplements that build bone and some bone bandits. What are the components of an exercise program to build bone and prevent fractures? And explore the relationship between stress, happiness, and bone health. And we'll do a few practices that it can enhance your life. How does that sound? Does that sound good? You can just write it in the chat if you're in. Yay. You can tell me, Liam, what people write. Is everybody on board, Liam?
Yep, they all seem ready.
Okay, we are ready. All right, so let's just go very basic. I like to start with a lot of today, there's going to be basic, but more, because sometimes we forget the basics. And I think you need to understand the very basics before you go on, to like all the, okay, this supplement, that, but you need to know what is going on. So we're going to start with that. So the definition of osteoporosis means porous bones. So what does that mean? That means a couple things. There's low bone mass, deterioration of bone tissue, compromised bone strength, and disruption of the architecture. So if we look at these two bones, the bone on the left and the bone on the right, this is through a microscope. And we see the bone on the left has nice crosslinks in between. This is strong. This will hold us up versus the bone on the right. We see how much thinner that is. Some of the crosslinks have broken. So this is what we consider osteoporosis. It's weak, it's brittle, it increases our risk of fractures. Now, here's why it's such an issue and why I am so passionate about this work. The statistics are not good. 1 in 2 American women 50 and over will have a fracture in their life due to osteoporosis. For men, it's 1 in 4. In other countries, we have some other countries here, it's better. That's worse than the United States. It's 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 men. But 24% of those who have a hip fracture die within the year due to complication. There's over 300,000 hip fractures every year in the United States. And 1 in 4, so if they don't die, they end up in a nursing home and they don't return to their previous level. So it's just not good. But the good news is none of us have to be one of these statistics. So what are these 4 keys? The first thing is we're going to talk about testing. And we need to figure out the severity, but also the root causes. And this is what I see missing so much in conventional care. It's not a one-size-fits-all diagnosis. It's not. It's not that you have a number on the DEXA scan and that's it, you go on this. It's not a pill for an ill. It's much more, there's much more to do than that. And when we do that approach, I don't think you're really treating the person properly, and I think we're missing a lot. So we're going to go over that today. We want to optimize nutrition and digestion. So we're both through food, supplements, as well as making sure our digestion works. Exercises, this is key. And as everyone knows, I'm a physical therapist, and I can't even tell you how important this is. So we're going to go over what is it that really, that really moves the needle on bones, and what is it, and falls. What can we do to prevent fractures? Because some people are doing exercises, but it's not, there's more that can be done, or changing it up to really have the best effect. And my favorite part that's totally overlooked is reducing stress and increasing happiness. And learning these lifestyle tools is such a big difference. We'll talk about it, but these are the 4 keys. And I have found when you do all of these keys, it's really miraculous. Our bones get better, and we figure out underlying root causes. That's why I see this all the time. People end up, they have the osteoporosis. But then what they do for the osteoporosis, for their bones, when they find the root cause, maybe they have a digestive issue and they're not absorbing nutrients. So when they fix that, wow, they're feeling much better. And then they exercise, so they get stronger. They're lifting suitcases. They're so that they turn around. They go, you know what? This diagnosis was a blessing in disguise, because it's not that most people don't, yes, you may have a fracture and that's how you find out. And that is how people find out. But a lot of people just find out from the DEXA test. They're feeling fine. And all of a sudden they get this news like, oh my goodness, if anybody relates to that, like, I'm doing things like, what in the world is going on here? Why is this happening? But yet it's a catalyst. This is what I find with this diagnosis. It's a catalyst to make change in your life. And so they turn around, they go, you know what? This was actually a good thing because down the road, I've done all these great things and I feel better, I'm stronger, I'm happier. So that's what I hope for all of you. So let's start with key one. How do we assess our bone health? So this probably everybody knows, the DEXA scan. Now, this is how it's diagnosed. This is still the gold standard. So what they do, they take your bones and they compare that to a 30-year-old's bones. And then they look at standard deviations away from that. And so if it's -1 and above, they consider that normal. -1 to -2.5 is osteopenia. -2.5 or lower is osteoporosis. And then if you've also had a fracture or it's much lower, they may say severe osteoporosis. But there's nothing miraculous between the -2.4 and the -2.5. It's not like something dramatically changes. It's just a continuum. So the precautions that I'm going to tell you for osteoporosis and osteopenia, I really believe they're similar. And then there's also a Z-score you may see, but that just compares you to your peers. It doesn't really mean much. What they look at basically is the T-score. All right, but there are some other tests that I think it's important to know about. So this one I absolutely love. It's called trabecular bone score. And you can put that in Google and see where there are centers near you. And there's a lot more popping up. I'm going to be going next week, actually, to the conference in DC. It's the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. And the people are there from TBS. So I'm going to talk to them because 3 times they've canceled on my podcast. But they're supposedly opening up more and more what it is, trabecular bone score. And people write into the chat. I'm curious how many of you know about this or how many have had this. So what it is because the DEXA only measures density. And what's important is density plus quality. That's what we need for the strength of the bones. The DEXA is only density. So 2 people with a -2.5, one can have really healthy bones, good quality, sort of like the scaffolding in a building. One's good and one isn't. And one can have very poor quality bone. So that's very important. And the DEXA doesn't tell us that. It just tells us how dense it is, So the TBS is software that's added to some DEXA machines, and it will tell bone quality. So not just density. So I find it very helpful. The problem is we want to compare oftentimes the DEXA. You have to use the same machine. And we want to compare it to our last one. So we don't really want to change machines. So it's sort of a trade-off. It's certainly not absolutely essential, but like I know where I was going, they went out of business. So I had to go to a new place anyway. So I got the TBS and it just helps to see quality. So if you're getting it for the first time, I would absolutely recommend. And otherwise, if you want to just see that quality, or, usually they should tell you, if your machine had it or not. But sometimes you have to ask for it or have the doctor write it on the prescription. Another thing you might hear about is REMS. That also goes by the name of Echolight. And that's radio frequency echographic multispectrometry. Anyway, it's a type of ultrasound of the spine and hip. Oh, the TBS only measures the spine, but the spine and hip. And that also gives you something called a fragility score that helps for quality. My feeling on the REMS is it certainly can be used as an adjunct. They haven't, speaking to numerous doctors and people in the field, they're still not relying on this in terms of replacing the DEXA, so it's something to know about. Certainly can be used as an adjunct, but I would not in any way or shape or form replace the DEXA with that. And, the TBS is my favorite, but, maybe more tests will be done with the REMS and different things. The FRAX is something everybody usually gets. It's a fracture risk assessment tool. Yeah, is there a question, Liam? Oh, where they calculate your 10-year probability of osteoporosis fractures, and they look at different factors, and it's pretty accurate. So most of the doctors will tell you this is your 10-year probability. So it's something good to know about. Okay, this concept, I really want everyone to pay attention because this is really important. So, and so a lot of people think that the bones they were born with are there all the time, but our bone does something called remodeling. So to stay fresh and healthy, we really get a new skeleton every 7 to 10 years. And this is what happens. So there's something called resorb. So there's cells called osteoclasts. And what they do, they break. So if you can see here, they're breaking down old bone. They're making like small pits. And then these bone fragments of collagen go into the bloodstream. So what they do, they get rid of old bone. They get rid of old bone. And then the osteoblasts, so you can remember that with the B, because blast, those are the bone building cells. And they fill these pits with new collagen. So this is how our bones stay healthy throughout life. They're always changing. Okay, so I really remember these two cells. The clasts are breaking down bone, and it's called resorption. It doesn't matter if you know the name or not. And the blasts are building bone called formation. So that's just remember that. So now what happens? Like, why do we start losing bone? Well, we see here with women that there's a huge drop, around 50 and between 50, starting at 50. And what's right in the chat, what you think that, oh, you can see it. I'm not going to lie. It says it's menopause. That's what happens. That's why women have this huge drop when we don't have the estrogen in our bodies. And the men, it goes more gradually over time. So we can see we gain a lot of bone. Our peak bone is around 30. This is important to know because younger people, women, they have 85 to 90% of their bone by age 18. And for men, it's by age 20. So the point is what we do we're young and our kids and our grandkids, it really matters. Sort of like a bank, you're putting in deposits, and then if you lose some later on, you have more in there. So it's just important to know. And what happens during menopause? So it can begin 1 to 3 years before. It can last 5 to 10 years through perimenopause and early postmenopause. And it can be 2% per year. So you could lose up to 20% of bone density from this. And unfortunately, in my era, I mean, this is that was when the Women's Health Initiative came out and hormone replacement therapy, people who were on it were taken off and, it was felt to be unsafe. And that's completely changed. They've taken off the black box warning and that study was not accurate. And that could be a whole nother discussion. However, the point is, this is something that certainly anyone going through menopause now should, unless you have contraindications, I would always look into bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And it's something that is safe now for people really at all ages. Again, this is something you work with your doctor on. Don't do this online. Something to really, if that's something that's interests you. But just know that people do lose bone because of menopause. But there are other root causes. And as I said, this is something that I teach in my programs and, more integrative doctors test for these things, but different things, environmental toxins. I mean, the big ones, medications, people could be on medications, those proton pump inhibitors, people who are on the acid blockers for different things, that significantly reduces nutrient absorption. And that's a known risk factor of osteoporosis. But not everybody realizes that inflammation in any part of the body can cause those osteoclasts to increase and break down bone. We talked about hormonal imbalances, micronutrient deficiencies. If we don't have certain nutrients, that's going to affect our bones. Autoimmune disease, if we have something that, any type of autoimmune disease can cause inflammation, a problem. Smoking, issues with our gut. Stress, which we'll talk about later. Gluten and celiac sensitivity. Celiac and gluten sensitivity. This is a biggie. I see this so commonly. We all know in conventional medicine, everybody tests for celiac. But when there's celiac, the lining, it's called the villi, are completely flattened. So there's not a huge percent of people have celiac. But yes, if you have celiac, you absolutely, people know that that affects your bone density. But gluten sensitivity is not appreciated really. A lot of people don't realize that, and it may not be that they have this major reaction when they have gluten. It could be 3 days later, or they just, the symptoms could be dull, it could be brain fog, it could be joint pain, it could be so many different things when you have these sensitivities that aren't, a major anaphylactic reaction or anyway, I see this very common in the community. And when you reduce the inflammation, things get better. And excessive alcohol use. There's more, but these are some of the main root causes. So I said one of the tests I wanted to tell everyone about that's missing. So we get the bone density test, right? But we don't know. We have this number. We don't know what is causing it. Is it that we had anorexia as a kid and we didn't build enough bone? It could be. And it could be that our bone's strong. Is it we're having some process going on that we're actively losing bone? We don't know. So these two tests, I am such a believer in. And I just can't even tell you how much this has changed people's lives. And my husband's an OBGYN. And so he's been there for a couple of years getting everybody to do these tests. And he can't get over how much information it has helped. But anyway, what are they? So there's two. So we can measure bone breakdown and bone formation. So the CTX, it's also C, it's a very long name, C-terminal cross-linking telepeptide of type 1 collagen. It's a blood test. So it can tell, remember I said the collagen goes into the bloodstream? So it can tell you how much bone you're actively losing, which is so helpful, versus the P1NP. That's procollagen type 1 N-terminal propeptide. That tells you the osteoblasts. So how it's a measure of bone building. So you can see what's going on and you can see the ratio. I like the ratio to be around 1 to 10 or 1 to 9. So of the, that you're building is 1/10 or 1/9 of the CTX. So these tests are really, really important. I know the functional doctors who I work with Dr. Millman, I look at Dr. McCormick, we look at these all the time because it's so helpful. So this is what I really think is important to ask your doctor for. Now, here's the issue. The doctor may say, oh, this isn't accurate. Well, you have to do it a certain way. And here's why it may not be accurate. It has to be done fasting. So there's no food, the night before, maybe 8 o'clock before the test. Water's fine. So you can't, because if you eat, it could lower the CTX and it's not going to be accurate. Number 2, you have to have no biotin, collagen, or bone broth for 48 hours because it's measuring collagen. So it would make it that it wasn't accurate. No vigorous exercise for 24 hours because hard workout can affect the results a bit. And the key is early morning. These tests change during the day, especially the CTX. So you want it as early as you can in the same time, approximately the same time. Write it down so that when you do a repeat test. So if you do all these things, it's been incredibly helpful. I can't even tell you how I think this helps figure out, if someone's going on a medication, you want to know, is it working? If it's supposed to be building bone, so you can get this checked 3 months later. Is this working? If you're doing more natural things, usually you would check it maybe 6 months. So it's very, very helpful. Okay, again, this is a short talk today, so I'm only going into some things. But another thing that all the doctors do is they do a comprehensive metabolic panel. You'll get this in terms of it. It's called a CMP. You get this when you get your blood work. And it measures 14 different substances. It's very helpful. I'm not going to talk about everything. I'm just going to tell you one thing. There's 2 things that I think are really important when it comes to your bones. The total serum calcium and the blood sugar. The blood sugar I'm not going to go into, but I just want to tell you that people, a lot of times, they don't even care about your blood sugar until you have diabetes. If it's like pre-diabetes, which is an A1C of 5.7 to 6. If it's pre-diabetes, they basically say, they don't really say much. But people with that A1C in a study had 24% increased risk of fractures. So it's very important, and there's a lot we can do for blood sugar. So it's just something to know about. I also like people to get their fasting insulin tested because that gives you more information. But I want to talk about the serum blood calcium, and I want everybody to look at theirs because what happens is and this is just, you would look on your test and it would just say calcium. It's a calcium in the blood. Everybody gets it tested. And the problem is, for some reason, on these tests, they look at a very wide range. So what's right for a 40-year-old, or not 40-year-old, let's say a 20-year-old, could be something over 10. But the problem is this, is that this range is too large. And what this test, if you have, I'm not going to go in detail on this because it's a bit involved. If you may have what's something called hyperparathyroidism. It's not thyroid, it's your parathyroid glands. And if they're too active, they're going to be taking more calcium from your bones. The signaling is messed up. They are going, and so all you need to do is look at your serum calcium. If it's over 10, you really need to be evaluated for parathyroid disease. If it's lower, like maybe under 9.2, also be looked at. But hyperparathyroidism, because you could have an issue with absorption or a problem. But if it's over 10, it's just something to note. It should be in the mid to high 9. And Dr. Diva Boone, she's a parathyroid surgeon, and I do have podcasts with her that we can put in the chat. Maybe put that in the chat, Liam, or you can just look it up. You can just go Margie Bissinger and Dr. Diva Boone. But the point is, she spoke on my summits, all of them, 4 summits. Each summit, 20 people at least, I mean, I'm not joking, found out they said their blood value was over 10. And so what you do, though, if that's the case, you can go to Southwest, it's at the bottom of the slide, parathyroid.com app. And she has an app, and you also put in your parathyroid hormone, and it can give you a lot of information. But my point here is we're just doing basics, but this is too important. I've seen this missed too much. And if this is missed, people are just losing bone, and they don't know why. And it's a surgery, but the minute after, this one woman that my husband picked up, who the endocrinologist missed this, she gained 14% after improvement just from having the surgery. You need to go to a parathyroid surgeon, someone who does this, but it's benign, it's not cancerous or anything, and it's so important. I just don't want anyone to ever miss this. So I just wanted to bring that up today. Okay, so let's talk about nutrients for strong bones. This is so important. And what I chose to do today, we're going to talk more about supplements. I'll mention food too, because I find people are so confused. And I recently, not that long ago, sent a newsletter out, and everyone's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I thought I would just clear some things up with supplements as well. All right. So there's many nutrients we need to build bone. These are just some of them. And I'm going to talk about the most important ones today. I always believe, if you can, always food first. If you can get your vitamins and minerals from food first, great. But many of us, can't. But then we supplement. But always a good diet is critical, and that's so important. Okay, so let's talk about calcium, because everybody knows about calcium. And that's the one thing every doctor will say, make sure you have your calcium, make sure you have your calcium. So again, so here's the thing. A lot of times they'll tell you 1,200 milligrams of calcium is what you need. But really, different countries have different amounts, and the bone protective values are 800 to 1,000 milligrams a day. Now, it's interesting. Why not more? And so a lot of the integrative doctors, and I work with Dr. Millman a lot. We do a lot of things together. We have the whole program. And these are the values that we look at, because there was a study done, and they found a 15% higher cardiovascular risk in people who had over 1,000 milligrams a day in supplements. Now, they didn't have the cofactors of magnesium. There were some other things, but still, there's just no reason when we can get bone protection at this level. So, 1,000 is good. So that's one thing I think is important. I have the study here that if you want, you can look at. It was in Nutrients in 2021. And the other thing is that in terms of maximal absorption, you don't want to take more than 390 milligrams at one time. So that's, I think, important with calcium. Now, one thing to note, so here's what I recommend people do. You calculate for a couple days what your calcium is. Now, what you're getting in foods. Now, there is a great app called Chronometer, and that helps tell you what your calcium is. You can also, if you look at the back of a label, it will tell you, like, for example, I brought this. This is Gerald Steiner, one of my great way to get calcium. If you have mineral water that's naturally carbonated and naturally, that's very safe and full of minerals. But this one, let's see if I can read this without glasses. Okay, this one, if you drank the whole entire bottle, 260 milligrams of calcium and 130 if like half a bottle. How great is that? But the point is, if you look at the label, it will say percent calcium, and if it tells you a percent, then you change that to if it's like 10%, that's 10 milligrams. This actually told you how many, yeah, it actually, it actually told you how many milligrams. But anyway, that's one of my favorite ways to get calcium. But anyway, the point is you also want to look at oxalates, because the oxalates bind to calcium. So what they do is they bind to the calcium and they make it they make it indigestible. So it ends up that it reduces the absorption because it binds to the oxalate. And so it can contribute to kidney stones. Anyway, it's a whole big topic, but all I wanted to say is when you're calculating your calcium, don't calculate high oxalate foods. You can use the Chronometer, but some of the biggest ones are spinach, Swiss chard, beets, almonds. Choose the lower oxalate greens, collards, bok choy, and kale. It's not a problem for everybody. But again, my big thing here is not to, for some people, it is a very big deal and they have pain and they have issues and it's a bigger conversation, but what I wanted to tell you here is when you're calculating how much calcium, don't consider those foods. So you calculate the food and then you only substitute, let's say you find you have 600 in your diet, then 1,000 minus 600, so maybe get 400 from supplement if you're not getting it in your diet, if you don't add it to your diet. But these are some of my favorite calcium-rich greens, collard greens, which are amazing. You can make wraps from them. You can make like a turkey burger. You can make a bean burger. You can put all sorts of things in the collards. I had a chef on every month I have these classes in my membership, and I also invite everybody to come. And one of the classes, she showed how you can cut them really thin and make delicious recipes. So there's all sorts of possibilities. Bok choy, kale, these are all really good ways to get some ways that you can get your greens that have so many other things in them as well. Magnesium, iron, phosphorus, zinc, vitamins A, C, E, and K. So it's nice when you can eat things that aren't, it's great when you can get it from your food. All right, but let's talk about the supplements because people are really confused. So in terms of what I would not take, the supplement I would not take is calcium carbonate. Okay, and that's the cheapest. It's the least well absorbed, and it needs stomach acid to work, and it reduces stomach acid. So there's so many reasons as we get older, we don't have enough stomach acid. So there's just so many reasons not to take it, even though that's the cheapest one. That's what's in Tums. You'll see that many places. So calcium carbonate, I say it at the bottom, is the one to avoid. These are I just put things up that I like. There are many good other supplements, but people always ask me, so I thought it would just be helpful to put the ones I like. I love, so calcium malate is a wonderful type of calcium. Designs for Health makes a very good brand. And this one has 250 milligrams per capsule. It also has 500 IUs of vitamin D. Okay, so that's a good calcium. Now, calcium citrate is very good. It also is something that the citrate, if you do have oxalates in your diet, is something that does help reduce oxalates, but calcium citrate is good. This one I like Pure Encapsulations, has 150 milligrams per capsule. They also make something called calcium microcrystalline hydroxyapatite. I like this. Certain people have issues with their stomach with this, but it's still a good calcium. So I just wanted to show you 3 I like. Just to know, that I have a full script dispensary for those people that don't know, and there's a discount always, but there happened to have an extra percent from today, May 18th to the 21st. So I highly recommend. Liam can write in the chat what that percent is. It's not something that we share on social media or anything. But anyway, I love Fullscript for numerous reasons. They have really good third-party testing. They only have good brands. I put up like my favorite bone products. It's under protocol in there. And two things that are really good. If you spend $50, it's free shipping. And that you get it really, really quickly. And they keep everything. They're so careful about keeping everything at the right temperature. And so I've been using Fullscript for years. So I'm such a big believer. There's the QR code here. And if you're on it already with someone else, you can still sign up for see, what I tell people is check it out. If it's less than what you're normally spending, great. If it's not, then, but the sale right now is really good. And they only have it like couple times a year. So you can certainly, this would be, if you want to stock up on supplements, this is a good time because you get an extra percentage off. But I made it easy, just tinyurl.com/supplements special, supplement special. Anyway, that's Fullscript. So big believer in that. And they have, the other thing is I get my salt there. I get suntan lotion there. They have products too. So it's really quite good. All right, let's talk about vitamin D. That unlocks calcium absorption. You can get it from the sunlight, fatty fish, best to take with a meal containing fat. And the key thing here is have your doctor, and the doctors do, they measure the serum 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Different people have different values. Different integrative doctors have different values. I think ideally you're looking for at least 45 nanograms per mil in terms of in your blood work. And that will depend what you take. So it's not that everybody should take 5,000. It's not that everybody should take 1,000. You really need it to be individualized. That's why when someone asked me earlier, do I believe in D and K2 together? I also like people to individualize it. And these are just two. There's many good ones. Jarrow's inexpensive and it's good. And you can get 2,500, 5,000. Metagenics, this is very reasonable. And each drop is 1,000 milligrams. So it's something that I really like. All right, magnesium. I want to make sure I have time for Q&A. I guess I'm talking slow. Magnesium, very important for calcium absorption, helps with relaxation. If you take calcium citrate, helps with constipation. Here's the thing, most people are deficient. They've done studies showing most people are deficient. We want to aim for at least a 2-to-1. So 2-to-1 calcium to magnesium. If you're taking 1,000 calcium, 500 magnesium, but 1-to-1 is good. That's what we did years ago, and there was so much more magnesium in our food. The RDA for adults 31, women is 320, men's 420, but that's the absolute minimum that you would want. But most people are deficient in that. So these are some good ones that I like. So if someone is constipated, this is great, magnesium citrate. I mean, always want to see why they're constipated and maybe fix underlying root causes. But so many people have really been helped by the magnesium citrate. But if your bowels are fine, this could cause loose stool. So magnesium citrate is good for constipation. You can really take it to bowel tolerance. Helped a tremendous amount of people. And I like Pure Encapsulations. Designs for Health has magnesium malate, a very good, well-absorbed type of magnesium. Also magnesium glycinate's well-absorbed. Two others, this is magnesium threonate, and that's been found to cross the blood. I just wanted to show you also. So 180 milligrams per capsule, 150 per capsule. So this magnesium, if you have this crosses the blood-brain barrier. So anybody with brain fog or anything going on with cognitive issues or anything, this might be one you want to take at night. But it's not as much per capsule. So this one's Designs for Health, Neuromag. This one of my friends, Mira Desi, who's a nutritionist, turned me on to. I think it's less expensive and it doesn't have quite as many ingredients in it. So it's a really good one as well. So those are also all the things I'm showing you are on Fullscript too. But these are just two magnesium. And if you can't absorb magnesium, there's also transdermal. There's sprays, there's lotions, there's things that also you can soak in magnesium. That's a way to get it as well. All right, I'm talking. All right, well, I may be talking a little longer Anyway, vitamin K2. This is the one that everybody gets confused about. Absolutely essential. K1 is important too, but K1, most of us, if we have any leafy greens, we get enough. K1 is the leafy greens. K1 is the one that deals with blood clotting. But K1 is, it's important. But most people, I think, really get enough in their diet if they have any leafy greens. K2 is so important. There's been a lot of research on it. It does two things. It activates two proteins. One is called osteocalcin that makes sure the calcium gets into the bones and the teeth. It goes where it needs to go, and that's osteocalcin. And matrix GLA protein that takes it out of the soft tissue, so we don't get it in our joints, we don't get it in our arteries. So it's very, very important, I think. And this is one the doctors, for some reason, there has been significant research on it. I don't know why it's not recommended. It's very safe. Again, I would always check. A lot of doctors, when people are on blood thinners, there's certain blood thinners, so always check. But there's two types, MK4, MK7. They're both good. They're both good. I'm not going to go in detail. The research, I like people to take both now. The research has shown 180 micrograms of MK7 has been helpful for bones, preventing bone loss. They've done research on that. The MK4, there have been numerous studies showing on reducing fractures. So both really good. The interesting thing is they did a study and they found, because that's what we used to recommend, 45 milligrams, which is very high, taking in doses of 15 3 times a day. But what they found was 5 milligrams was enough to cause this, what's called carboxylation, that this osteocalcin worked. So since I work with Dr. Millman a lot, and she did massive research on the heart and really realized that vitamin K2, more research is done on MK7 and the heart. So we certainly want heart protection as well. So I don't take credit for this. This was Dr. Millman's recommendation that, if you take 2 capsules of Thorne, vitamin K2K, you're going to get 1 milligram of vitamin K1, but you'll get 5 milligrams. This is just one. Oh, so if you take 2, you're going to get 10 milligrams of K2, which is plenty to cause the carboxylation. And then you'll get 2 of these would be 180 micrograms of K2. So it'd be, you take 2 capsules. You take 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, you get both, the benefit of both. So that's sort of what we both come to, really looking at the research and doing a deep dive into this. But again, either one, I think regardless, it's important to have some K2, So there's a food called natto that's sort of slimy from Japan, and people that ate that had much improvement, significant improvement in bone density in bones and reduced fractures. You can also, there's some other ones if you don't want to take together. Thorne makes a liquid that you can take drops, which is good. And Vital Nutrients has a K2. So this is MK4. This is MK7 with the 180 micrograms. Anyway, so K2 is really important. Another thing I just wanted to mention is genistein. A lot of people don't know about this. It's a plant compound, and they've shown that an increased bone density at the femoral neck. There were gains in also the lumbar spine total hip. And on the study, 24 months, they had greater bone density than at 12 months. So the longer was better with genistein. Now, this is so unbelievable to me. So they did a study. Now, this was people who were on glucocorticoid. This is the cause from steroid-induced osteoporosis. And they took genistein versus alendronate, which is Fosamax. And the Fosamax works by stopping bone loss by the osteoclast. They both increase bone density, the same. They both decrease CTX, so they both decrease bone breakdown. That's what Fosamax does. Genistein as well. It's a very, very, very weak estrogen. There's no contraindication to that. Again, check with your doctor always. But something called sclerostin, which blocks bone formation. This is how a drug Evenity works. It was lowered with genistein, which is great, but it was raised with the Fosamax. And so it was better. So the genistein was better. And also the metabolic effects where, different things, glucose and lipid metabolism were better with the genistein, worse with the Fosamax. So this to me is a great option for people. And I personally take this myself. I love Osteoben. Now, Osteoben has the genistein, and it's not from soy, it's from a Japanese Sephora extract. It has 54 milligrams. This was the dose that they found in the research so effective. 4 capsules a day, but it also contains 1,000 D3, K1, not, very small amount. So it's not K2. You still have to take your K2 with this. Calcium, one I like, dicalcium malate, so 400 milligrams. So again, you wouldn't need to take calcium. Magnesium, same good form, dimagnesium malate, 400. And zinc, which is very helpful, 8 milligrams. You can take a little more for it, if you're taking zinc, but certainly good. Anyway, I think this is a great option. I used to always say, if you're taking them separately, calcium separate from magnesium. But what I found after talking to so many doctors and people that it's more the higher doses that matter. So if you take this, you take 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, you get all of this. And, again, just see how much you're getting in your food. So I think it's a very good option for people. They do have genistein other ways, but this is my favorite because it's the way it is. It's also Japanese. It's not from soy. So just something to know about. Protein. Oh, I guess I'm talking more than the 45 minutes, but that's okay. So I'm not going to go in big detail. Just protein is really, really, really important. What they found is, in the research, 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight if you don't really do anything. If you're active, at least 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram if you're active. So what that is, you take your see, I did this for myself earlier, you take your weight, so I weigh 124, divided by 2, you turn it into kilograms, so you divide it by 2.2, and then you multiply by whatever it is. So I'm very active, so I multiplied it by 1.6, so it gave me 90.18 grams. Some people say one gram for body weight. It really depends, but most people aren't getting enough protein. Another way, you can aim for 25 to 30, spread it over your meals. But good ways to get it: wild caught fish and shellfish, pasture raised, eggs and poultry, grass-fed meat, lentils, beans, hemp. But protein's really important. But another thing I also love, is the perfect, and Dr. Millman, I have to give her credit too. She turned me onto this, and so many people are using it. And I interviewed the person who created this, Dr. David Minkoff, on my summit, and I really learned about this. So it's the essential amino acids, and they're 99% utilized to build protein, collagen, and bone. So they're really great. 5 tablets is a serving. I like the powders. You can either do both. I like I take the mocha. I can put it in coffee, the regular decaf. And he says to put at least 2 if you have osteoporosis or bone loss to be most effective. But anyway, a lot of people in the community have gotten major improvement from these perfect aminos. And if you're not getting protein, because it's already broken down, so it goes right to work. This is what they say is the equivalent, because you don't absorb, it's equivalent of 29 grams of whey, 15 grams of meat, and 10 grams of whole eggs had absorption. Anyway, there's more things too, but I just wanted to give you the criticals. Also, crowd out sugar. Sugar does all sorts of negative things, reduces absorption, and it stimulates the osteoclast to break down bone. So these are all the basic bone bandits. You can look at this on the slide. The basic things. We want to eat a good, healthy diet, reduce processed foods. All of these things negatively impact our bones. Okay, so that's it. I'm just going to go over. Sorry, I wasn't planning this taking longer than 45 minutes, but I just want to talk about the exercises. This is so essential. There's 5 components we want. Resistance training, which is, strength training, and that's what they've really shown moves the needle. They did the Lift More study showing when women were lifting weights that were hard, not easy, that's when they really gained bone. So it's not the repetitions, it's the amount of weight, because when we're bending, when we're contracting a muscle against gravity, it's saying, hey, we need more bone here. So we want to do that. Twice a week is great, at least. You can do it more often, but not on consecutive days. And again, it's very important to do this properly. Critical. That's why I love when people work with a physical therapist. Weight bearing or impact, that's when the weight is against gravity. I'll go into more of these in a minute. Balance, oops, yeah, I'll show you here. Balance, I'm just going to mention them. Balance training, posture, and aerobics. And what this shows, so resistance, this is me doing an overhead press. Resistance can be the weights, bands, it could be weights, it could be machines at the health club. And this is one people really like, the hip machine, which is good. So that's, resistance. Again, I strongly recommend working with someone in terms of, and it's less reps. So you can start 8 to 10, 12 reps in, 2 sets maybe. You don't want it to be, I'm doing 50 repetitions or you're doing 2 pounds for 10 years, but you have to have good form. That's why I love working with a physical therapist, which is usually covered by insurance. Weight bearing or impact, so walking, dancing, jogging, jumping. Again, it depends on where you're at and being in good form. Balance is critical. I love Tai Chi. This is Matt Jeffs. He's done numerous classes with me in Qigong. And it's because again, not everybody can do the strength training, but everybody can do balance. And if we can prevent a fall, great. I just did a podcast, so I go into this in more detail on it's not out till like 2 weeks, but it'll be out on what is missing from your exercise program. So I go into this in detail. For those of you who don't have, I have some videos on balance exercise free, on posture exercises and just information more on weight training. If you go to my website, margiebissinger.com, at the bottom, it will have something you can sign up and you can get the exercises. I'll also add it to the replay of this. I'll just give you how you can just get the exercises if you don't have it. Great place to start. All right, write in the chat, safe or not safe for someone with osteoporosis. And Liam, you read them out to me. So I want everybody writing in the chat, safe or not?
Not safe. It's pretty unanimous.
Okay, you guys know. I'm not going to say. I'm reserving comment till later. How about this one with the toe touch, with the rotation? What do we say about that one?
We're still getting a bunch of not safe. Definitely no.
Okay. I don't know what meeting questions is, but okay, I can allow that, I suppose. Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Next is, what about this? Sit-ups and crunches? What are people saying, Liam?
Let's see. This one is a little more debated. Some people are saying safe, some people are saying not safe, mostly not safe though.
Okay. How about this one? This is the abdominal machine at the health club.
A little back and forth. Some people are saying no, some people are saying safe, mostly saying no.
Okay, drum roll, everybody. Here we go. All 4 are not safe. And the reason is, I'm going to show you why this isn't. All of them have rounding of the spine, forward bending. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. So here we see this. If we look at this, this is the spine from the side. And this is square vertebrae, right? And that's a disc in between. So that's the way you look at it. This is the back, if you feel the bones on your back, and this is the front. So now we see, though, what happens with osteoporosis is the fractures occur in the front of the spine mostly, or right here, not in the back. So if we take this spine and round it out, right, we see that the fractures are occurring in the front of the spine. So I didn't put that in. They did a study at the Mayo Clinic, and they showed people that did forward bending only exercises. They looked at over a 6-year period of time. They measured fractures, had an 89% fracture rate. People going backwards had a 16% fracture rate. So the point is, they will never repeat that study, but it makes sense. We're putting forces on an area that's already weakened. So this is it used to be, I've been doing this for 30 years. We used to tell people no forward bending and no excessive rotation because rotation torques it. So that bending forward rotation, when those windmills, that's even worse. And that can also bother your disc as well. So that's what we used to say, like none, but that's not realistic. People are going to bend and do things, but we don't want it to be part of an exercise program. So what Canada has a good program. It's Osteoporosis Canada, and they've done many things. So this is very good. They have their practice guidelines. So what they said, and it changed, as I said, we used to tell everyone to avoid, but people were scared. because it's not going to fracture one time. So they want you to avoid rapid, repetitive, so doing an exercise, sustained, weighted, or end range of motion, twisting. So don't push it on the twisting, or flexion, which is rounding of the spine. That's what you want to modify. So all of those things we want to modify. So as I said, also we want the strengthening, we want the balance, we want posture, we want aerobic, we want all those good things. And as I said, I have more information on that and videos for you in terms of, I'll include it with this, or, again, you just can go to the website. But for everybody here, for people on YouTube, if you are on YouTube, I will, I'll if you just go to my website, margiebissinger.com, you can get that. Okay, so now lifestyle. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but they've done research. Higher anxiety is correlated with lower bone density of the lumbar spine, femoral neck. High social stress is linked to greater bone loss over 5 years of follow-up in postmenopausal women. And this is my favorite, higher life satisfaction. So people that are happier had higher bone density. There was a Finnish study. So this really matters. So I teach a happiness program, and that's part of my membership, because I think people minimize this, but anything you can do for stress or happiness. So the two things I would start with, I always start deep breathing before you eat. It just throughout the day it starts relaxing you. You're going to absorb your nutrients better, and deep breathing is so powerful. When you do that, think of bringing in positivity and good things. So that's one thing. And then in terms of the happiness, I always tell people that, what's good. Think about, like in the morning, like wake up, like what's the best thing that could happen today? Try to just magnify the good in your life. But I think there's a lot of this stuff is so important, and we don't pay attention to it. All right. So the key here is Kaizen. It's a Japanese term. You want to take small, consistent steps. Choose one thing. I'm going to stop eating all that sugar, or I'm going to add some balance exercises. I'm going to take it to anything. That's what I find works. You can't get into overwhelm. That's your enemy. So you'll say, okay, you know what? I'm going to start maybe adding some resistance or something. Pick one thing that you can do. I just love this. This was years ago, a patient of mine's son. And when she'd go to the supermarket, she'd come home, he'd say, kale, because she started making kale chips for him. So, how we care for ourselves, we can teach the next generation. And it just is a ripple effect. And the last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to go to our questions, is in terms of this. Oh, so people asked me earlier in terms of what I have. So I created this after my first summit, because there was so much information. People were like, what am I going to do? And so, but the roadmap it started out as 4 classes. So I had in much more detail than today. So the first class is all about root causes. What you need to look at, what are the values, all the different things, much more in detail. Homocysteine, just different things to look at could cause bone, and how you could determine that. The second class is on exercise in much more detail. Third class is on food and nutrients. And the fourth class is much more in detail on stress reduction. But then I added things to it. So those were the classes. And then there's the Q&A that went with those that you can listen to it if you want. But then I included 8 more videos on Joan Pagano, an incredible exercise physiologist, did a strength training class with the community. Matt Jeffs did a Qigong class. A class on herbs and spices by a naturopath, Dr. Sally Lamont. Someone did laughter yoga, which was just fun. I threw that in. Penelope Wasserman did tap dancing for bones, and you don't need tap shoes for that. And then we did Eastern medicine with a physician, how you can use Eastern medicine. Isa Herrera is a physical therapist, really taught us about the pelvic floor, which is so important. And I did something on conquering overwhelm. So anyway, this is available. It's normally $197. People who are interested, because it's May Osteoporosis Month, it's just, if you use May 100 with this, it's just $97. So if you want to do more, I highly suggest it. It comes with a cookbook. It comes with a workbook, a lot of stuff. For those who know me, I try to make things very inexpensive, because I know how expensive life is. And if you have a problem with something, I do give scholarships. So just, you can always send an email to support@margiebissinger.com. And yeah, the one other thing about this, if you do buy this and you check out, you can also opt into my membership, which is a little different. So these are classes, but a lot of people want support, like the Q&A that we're going to do. And so in the membership, every month I have a guest expert. Like we're having one Thursday, a physical therapist who's teaching us more strength training and also more cognitive exercises. I didn't get into that, how we can use our brain and balance to improve both and reduce dementia, et cetera. Anyway, so she's coming on Thursday, but that's included in the membership. And every month I have a happiness class. And then I do a Q&A, which always lasts 2 hours because I really everybody submits their questions ahead of time. And, you know, I really do answer everybody's. And so anyway, and then the happiness class, yeah, this month is going to be quite special. My daughter is the manifestation queen. So I asked her to come, and she's really teaching people how you can manifest. And she increased her salary 10x. She manifested that. She manifested her husband. And so I asked her, can you come to my class? So that's happening in June. But anyway, if you join now, that's included. But anyway, you can look into that. Okay. So I'm going to now, the key is, I hope this wasn't too long, but I really wanted to share things you could put into your life and one thing at a time. But the truth is, I've been doing this for so many years, and I see this, you can stay strong, active, independent, any age. And all of these things really move the needle. But it's the combination of all of them, you know, root causes, nutrition, exercise, and the stress and happiness piece. And that's what I've seen. And that's why I'm so passionate, because it truly works. The girl whose son that was, she was very young when she had osteoporosis. She had an autoimmune issue. She had young kids. So she wasn't postmenopausal. So we worked on that and she got things stabilized. And then recently I bumped into her and she had stopped doing her exercise and her bone density. She's going through menopause now. So got her on hormones, got her onto the Onero program. And she's doing amazing. So all ages, young, old, it's never too early, never too late. Okay, so I am stopping and I'm sorry that was so long. I really thought I'd make it only 45 minutes. I hope that was helpful. So Liam, are you ready to, oh, good.
I have a ton of questions.
Okay, I'm ready for them. Oh, I wanted to show you one thing though. I showed you this about the calcium, just 2 easy ways to increase calcium. I love this Gerolsteiner, the carbonated water. Again, this is safe, it's good, they do it naturally. It doesn't have phosphoric acid, and that's the one that's dangerous. But this, oh my gosh, Zen, well, you can just get basil seeds. They have so much more calcium than chia seeds. Yeah, Zen Basil, I love these. They have, actually, Dr. Keith McCormick had told someone about this, and they told me about this. It has, let's see if I can read this. I should have brought my glasses. 370 milligrams of calcium in how many tablespoons? In 2 tablespoons, yeah. So this is like a great way. So I used to, chia has higher oxalates. So this is, and they have more 15 grams of fiber. It has good protein, better. It's just real protein. Is it 8 grams? Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, I never, ever, ever, ever order supplements on Amazon. I don't think they're safe because I've heard bad stories and things, but I do order this on Amazon, Zen Basil. And this I get in Trader Joe's, cheapest place for this. All right, I'm ready. Let's go, Liam. Hit me with the questions.
I think a good one to start with is actually 2 kind of mixed. So can bone actually be built up, or can you just attempt to keep it from getting worse? And is there any age where you stop being able to help yourself?
This is such a good question. Thank you for starting with this, because what's so amazing, that's what we used to think. You can't gain any more. Now, granted, it's easier to prevent bone loss than gain. You can't gain any more. That is not true. Well, that's what's so exciting. First of all, let's not even talk about the drugs, which I'm not against. I have to tell you, there is a time and a place for drugs, and the new medications can certainly be a good adjunct, or we call it a medication bridge for a short period of time to get you out of, we don't want anyone fracturing. But anyway, forget the medications for now. Just with exercise, I've interviewed Belinda Beck. She is the person who, Dr. Belinda Beck, she's a PhD who ran the studies in Australia with the Lifmore. And what happened, the Lifmore was so successful, the highest gains in bone density from doing the strength training. Now, very important not to look at this study and just say, I'm going to start doing that. It's really not safe. You need to do this with a physical therapist or someone who's trained. That turned into the Onero program. And so I've interviewed her, and people continue to increase their bone density just with the exercise, which is unbelievable. And so I think, no, so we're seeing in gains in my bone density increased by, I've been doing the Onero now 2 years, actually. It's not only the Onero, everyone says, oh, I can't do Onero. It's not like that. It's doing strength training, resistance, and impact safely with supervision, at least initially. So yes, I see this all the time. I see people gain. And then if people are really low, I'm a big believer getting the medication for a short period of time because it builds bone. There are newer medications that actually build bone. So yes, it's not too late. There's not a period of time where you can't build bone, but not everybody can do that kind of heavy exercise. So even if you maintain bone and you really get your balance, I'm such a big believer in this balance because I work with the state of New Jersey. I've been overseeing their osteoporosis programs. I think it's 20 years now. And I created a program also for them. And so in New Jersey, so we have weight shifting back and forth, side to side, which is part of Qigong. I mean, I'd say 100 people have told me, oh my gosh, I didn't fall because I was practicing that. So, I'm just so regardless, I think there's so much that can be done. But the answer is yes. So, but I'm saying, even if you maintain, that's good because the trajectory is that you lose every year. So I think but yes, you can. I see it all the time.
All right. Let's see. What do you do if your doctor won't prescribe the DEXA or other tests?
Well, I think you find another doctor. I think, and you can have any doctor. It could be your OBGYN, it could be your internist, it could be, and sometimes people, I think you have to partner. I'm such a big believer in that's why I do what I do. Knowledge is power. And we have to be able to partner with our doctor, to have a conversation, to have the understanding and to explain why. So I think if the doctor's saying, no, I can't imagine. Years ago, it used to be 65 or over. Well, you may have missed everything, and you didn't even know what's going on. They've changed that. Any risk factor, menopause is even a risk factor. But if the doctor, you can't be a partner with the doctor and work together, I would say find a new doctor. I just don't think that's a good relationship. And oftentimes, see which doctor works with you. And you can also have both. You can have, your conventional doctors you've worked with for years, and maybe also work with a integrative doctor. Now, there's Dr. Keith McCormick, who is absolutely brilliant. He wrote this book I have here, which I highly recommend, but it's like an encyclopedia, Great Bones, and I've had him on the podcast numerous times. He is brilliant. And what he does, so a lot of times I'll have people in the community see him for they can he does consults and he's really great. So if someone doesn't know if he's probably the best person I know to look at all your things. And if someone's contemplating a medication or some root causes, he's really quite good. And he does them online, and a lot of people in the community have seen him. So if you really can't find a doctor, you can always go to the Institute of Functional Medicine Institute of Functional Medicine, just type it in, find a practitioner and see if there are any functional doctors in your area, because they typically will order, but most people will order the DEXA at least. That's surprising. Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of different supplements. Can you pick out the one or two most important ones to start with?
Yeah, I would start with, if you're not getting enough calcium in your diet, because you need enough calcium, the bones need calcium. If they don't get enough, they'll take it your body needs it for so many processes. If you don't get enough, it will take it from your bones. So make sure you're getting enough calcium. The vitamin D is very important, and the K2. I would say those, and magnesium. I like all four of them. I think those are the most important. So if I had to say, and make sure you're getting enough protein in your diet. But I would say those four: calcium. If you unless you're getting it in your diet, then you don't need it. Magnesium, D. If check your values. I mean, if you live at the equator, you don't need it, and you don't wear sunscreen. K2, and yeah, those would be the absolute most important. I mean, there are other ones that are good, zinc, boron, but I just gave you the most important ones today. Yeah.
We had a bunch of generic questions about collagen supplements. Could you talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. The one I like, I didn't put that in. I was going to, but then I didn't want to get people crazy on so many things. This is the one I like, whole body collagen. This is Designs for Health. And what they did is it's with something called Fortibone. So they've actually done research on this and it helped bone density. So out of all the collagen, there are other brands that have Fortibone in it, but this is the one that I personally like. It's on Fullscript. Again, if you're taking the perfect aminos, there's questions you need both. I personally do take both. But again, yeah, I do think collagen is helpful. It helps in terms of the matrix, the flexibility of that bone matrix. That's where the collagen, the protein, vitamin C, all very helpful. That if you fall, it's not going to fracture. It helps with the flexibility.
Someone asked if your program is something they can use for life. Is it available for repeat indefinitely, especially the exercise classes?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are there. Yeah, yeah. You don't. That's there always. It doesn't go away. And the other thing is, yeah, yes, with that program for the 4 class. Yeah, I just kept adding things. I'm like, they have to know about pelvic floor. Isa's class is going in there. The membership, there's zillions of classes in the membership. It's gone crazy actually. And I'm working on even getting it more organized so you can see what's there because there's so many different exercise classes in the membership. Yeah, so as long as you're a member, you have access to the membership things. But yeah, but the classes in the roadmap, they don't go away. They're there.
There were a couple different questions about AlgaCal. Can you give your opinion on them?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with AlgaCal. What I do have a problem though is strontium. Okay, so I don't know if it's called the AlgaCal Boost or sometimes you say, oh well, we guarantee you gain bone density, this and that. Well, they have something called strontium in it, and strontium is the element weighs more than calcium, and so what happens? It artificially makes the DEXA look better than it is. And so it actually, people are so excited. Oh my gosh, I gained bone density, in the DEXA. And but it wasn't like they improved their tensile strength. It's just if you're on strontium, it's not accurate. So it invalidates the DEXA, number one. Number two is in Europe, it was strontium renylate they used. Here they have the different strontium. But they don't know for sure. There was increased blood clots. There's some other things that just aren't great. So I'm not a believer in the strontium. The AlgaCal, there's nothing bad in that AlgaCal. That's absolutely fine. Is it better than other things? No, I don't think so. But it's certainly I have no problem with the AlgaCal.
All right. Can you talk more about BHRT and is it safe?
Yeah, it's a really long discussion. Yes, again, you work with a doctor. I do have some podcasts with Felice Gersh and a couple of podcasts. You know what I'll do? I'll put in after we finish, I will, when you get this, yeah, I can do that. When you get the replay, I have a couple of things on BHRT that I've done whole podcasts on. So I mean, I don't personally work with it, but I'm a very, very big believer, and I think it's worth a conversation. And even if you can't go on BHRT, as I said, like there's genistein, but there's DHEA, there's maca, there's other things for hormones, even if you can't, be on, there's vaginal ultrasound for people, not vaginal ultrasound, vaginal estrogen that doesn't even get absorbed. That's very, very safe. So, but again, BHRT, I'm a huge believer in and working with the right person. But I have some really good podcasts on that. So I'll make myself a note to put that under the replay here. Okay.
Let's see. Do greens powders have too many types of greens that may be high in oxalates?
It's a good question. I don't think so. Like the one I like, I remember checking this out, and it was not high in oxalates. I like Organifi. It's like yummy and it also has a full dose of ashwagandha, which is like a natural adaptogen. So it can help you if you're too tense, if you're too, it's yeah, but no, I don't, I remember checking it out and it was not very high, but it's a good question and it's worth checking out, um, in more detail. Good question though, and maybe something I'll check out for another Q&A I do. Yeah.
Should everyone avoid oxalates or just certain people who have issues with them?
Not every, I mean, it's a horrible discussion. I have to be honest, because there's really healthy foods. And, it's like, how much can you take? I remember thinking, oh, initially I avoided that conversation because I'm like, oh, come on, are you kidding? But the truth is that people, I mean, both Dr. Millman and I have found this in our communities that certain people don't have, there's a genetic component. So certain people really have issues. But I mean, it really depends. Not everybody has to watch out for them. But certain people really do have issues. If like you have things and you haven't been able to figure out, you can't stop the oxalates all at once because your body reacts to that. And you can have something called oxalate dumping, but you gradually reduce them. And shocking things happen. People with cystitis, people who had joint pain. There was a chiropractor with neck pain. That got better in Dr. Millman's program. And very, very interesting. My daughter was just in Spain and her joints had been sort of weird. And she's like, they're perfect here. Like, what's going on? And we decided her matcha, which is really healthy one because it has so many almonds in it. Between the matcha and the almond milk, we really think it could be oxalates. So, but the problem with oxalates is that it blocks the calcium absorption. So no, not everybody, but I would not have a spinach almond milk smoothie every day. I think it's a good idea to limit them. And it depends, but there have been people that it's shocking that they were able to improve themselves from the oxalate. So it's something to know about. And it's not that everybody's bothered by them, but it's important. I just think it's good to know like what's super high foods. And we know spinach, we know Swiss chard. So, I would pick out the other greens instead.
All right. A couple of people have asked questions about lower back exercises. Do you have any specific exercises that would help with that area?
Here's what I think with the low back. I think a big deal with the low back is that we stabilize, I think that rounding out of the back, I think a lot of the back has to do with daily activity. So I think if you get your core strong, and there's many things, again, it would depend on what's causing the back pain, but I think in general, stabilizing, and what I like to do is on the exhale, you tighten you do like a Kegel, and then you tighten your core with the belly button on the exhale. And then anyway, and in the roadmap, I actually show that in Joan's class, but and Isa Herrera talks about this as well. But anyway, if you stabilize, then when you're doing things during the day, you're not going to have back problems. The other thing I think is if you maintain, we all have an inward curve in our low back. Okay. And a lot of people round it out when they sit, when they do things. And so if you go in the exercise thing, I show you how to sit, how to do things. But I think when we overstretch it, so when you're sitting around it, that's when we're putting too much force on our low back. So if we can maintain it, if we can't do it by ourselves by taking a towel roll and putting it in our low back, it can really, really make a big difference. So I think getting stronger, doing core exercises without rounding, I think is really good. I think anything we do where we're stabilizing is going to help. Again, it really depends. If your back hurts, I would go to a physical therapist. And there's different physical therapists. There's physical therapists who you would go to for osteoporosis. And a lot of them will be great with back problems. But then if you really have an issue, there's something called clinical orthopedic specialists. And not everybody. Now I'm older, so I got my master's in orthopedic physical therapist. Now everybody has a doctorate and but now the people who are really in orthopedics get the clinical orthopedic certification. So anyone who's a specialist, orthopedic clinical OC specialist, yeah, OCS, They have like a specialty in joints and back, so you may want to see them. But I would get it looked at because sometimes it's the way it can be different, so many different things. It can be fascia. It could be, just the way you're walking. It could be your posture. So I would see what's causing it. And then there's lots of exercises, but there's not like one specific back. But I think if you stabilize while you do things and really look at your daily activities, I think that could make a big difference.
A couple of people have asked questions about back bends and if they're safe at all for
Yeah,
exercise.
back bends are, the thing with the spine, I mean, is that, do I have my spine here? No. The spine, I have a spine in the closet there. But anyway, the back of this, I guess, you know what? I'm going to get it. Hang on one second. It's right here. Hang on. Okay. This guy has let me put this back on. This guy has a broken neck, but that's okay. I used to do a lot of head, neck, and TMJ. And so the guy needs a little help. But anyway, if we look, this is the front and this is the back. So we have the inward in the neck, the rounding in the back. But right here, those are the facet joints. So what happens if we go back, we can jam them. So if we go forward, they open. I don't know if you can see that. They open a little bit, those joints here. If we go back, they can compress. So for some people have ankylosing spondylitis where the joint is smaller. So for some people that hurts. So you certainly don't want to do it if it hurts. And that's those people, they can just maybe go to neutral. But certainly doing backward bending and things are absolutely fine. When we want to open the chest and oops, it's got all messed up here. I see what happened. Hang on one second. I like, okay, here we go. I like doing something called, it's called a Brugger's posture, but all you can do this here. You would put your hands straight down, right? And just turn the palms up. So your shoulders go down, palms up. It opens this up. That's not backward bending, but backward bending, if it doesn't hurt you, or going on your stomach and extension. Extension is really important because all those muscles attached to the spine. So, and I have a bunch of exercise classes too. I mean, there's all sorts of things. So anyway, yeah. So no, I don't have a problem, but if it hurts, then it's not the right thing for you.
Can you mention the name of the hip machine at the gym that you talked about?
Oh, I don't have the name of it. It's just hip abduction, AB, abduction, hip adduction, AD. So you're sitting, your hips, you go out and in. It's good. It's very good. You can put, it's easy. And the thing about that one though, and actually in the class I have with Dr. Claudia Tomas, and this is in the membership, she shows everybody in this class how, what not to do. So you don't want to just like relax. A lot of times people relax, in the back, it like goes back, but you want to sort of stabilize and then go out and in with your legs. But a lot of people, it's one most people can do. And the other nice thing about that is your hip is, your hip's bent. And in a flex, like if you only did exercises standing, you're not going to get that femoral neck area. So when you do exercises like squats and different things with the hip flexed, like you would be in that sitting position, it gets that area. So it's a good machine. Yeah.
Someone is asking about if a rebounder is beneficial for improving bone density, how often it should be used.
Yeah, they did a study, name is Posh. They did a study on the rebounder and only one study really. Again, it's not as much force. I was surprised. It's not as much force. There's nothing bad about the rebounder. Just don't fall off it. There's nothing bad about it. It certainly causes increase in circulation and synovial fluid. There's a lot of good things about it. Again, I'd be careful with my core. I'd work on making sure you don't want to, I would do the Kegels and things. But yeah, so they actually did show improvement in bone density but it was like a 40-minute session doing all sorts of things on the rebounder. But it's certainly nothing bad. It's not, you don't have the same ground force because the bones respond to the forces. So it's not quite as much, but it's certainly not a bad thing. Again, I probably would get them with like what is it called? Like there's like handles that you can hold on to. If anyone's interested, you can always write me. I think I get a discount. A lot of companies have given me discount on things. If you're interested in that, write and you want to buy one, write support@margiebissinger.com. Because I think I have a code for, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, I know one of the companies had given me some. If someone's interested. So it's certainly good, but it's, again, people had to be on it for a very long time and do different things. The one study, but it did show positive effects.
Let's see. How much fat should be taken with the fat soluble vitamins?
I don't know if they have the exact amount, just some, just a little bit is fine.
Can you talk about vibration plates and your particular favorite brand of vibration plate?
Yes, and I told earlier before we started, I was asked this question as well. So yes, I personally have used it. I don't even know. I think it's like 8 years, and we'll put in the. So let me make sure I know it. I'm the BHRT. I'm going to put in the podcast with what's his name now? Now I'm having a mental block. What's his name? Oh, Clint Rubin, Dr.
Yeah.
Clint Rubin. He's done all the research on these vibration plates. But the truth is, I like the Maradyne. I'm a big believer in we don't want to get injured. We just don't want to get injured. And so their parameters of the Maradyne LIV, and I will find out when I put this in, I'll find out because I get a significant discount on that. They gave me at the summit and then they gave me one again. So let me find out what it was. And it's more than you can get online. It's a little more. So let me find out and I'll put that in. However, so this vibration plate is low intensity vibration, but they found that these parameters stimulate in the bone marrow. It's called the mesenchymal stem cells, and they have a choice. They can turn to bone or fat, and they've shown that they turn into bone. So it really does help on that level. Research has been mixed in terms of showing major bone density gains and things. However, there is research on all sorts of things, peripheral neuropathies and, and people who had cancer, different things. But so there's definitely no harm. I mean, you can only help. Why I like that one is other than there's some that really shake you. And I think it's called the ISO 26. They look at vibration in the workplace. They study that. And the levels that these higher machines do, they don't say are even safe for like 10 seconds I mean, they're just not safe in the workplace. Like those levels have been deemed unsafe. So why would we want to stand on them? So to me, and again, there are people that do it and they can maybe gain bone density, but to me, I would rather go on the lower one. So I do this every day, and it's just very subtle and it doesn't hurt at all, and it's stimulating. And in terms of what they told, I do it once a day. I just do it in front of the TV. I mean, you could do all these mind body things on it, but truthfully, at the end of the night, I go on it with the TV while I'm winding down. However, I just do it, but they say the best is to do it 10 minutes twice a day, or even 5 minutes, like twice a day. But I do it once a day. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 7, 8, I think 8 years. But I have seen people, there's a lot of people in the community who use it. I know when I was working one-on-one as a physical therapist, a lot of people purchased them. And, I do so many things with people because I take this whole approach. So we can't say one thing helped because they're also doing an exercise program. But two people in particular who everything went wrong for them. People died in their family. They had a lot of stress. So they weren't doing anything, but they were doing that. And they actually, one maintained and one increased, which I wouldn't have expected given all the things they weren't doing. But anyway, so I do like the Maradyne. It's not something, it's expensive. So it's not something, and some people are able to get it through different policies or different things, but it's not something, it's not mandatory. The exercise is what's really moving the needle, but it's certainly a good adjunct if you wanted to. So it's the Maradyne low intensity vibration. The people I like is Copa Health, and there's a person there, Ian Cutts, who's phenomenal. If you want all the articles you can possibly get, if you want anything, he will give it to you. And there's only 2 units that uses low intensity vibration that I know of. The other one's called Juvent. It's way more expensive. Same people sort of created both of them. But anyway, I will put the link to his his podcast and find out exactly what the discount is. And I should be able to get that before the replay. I put it in the replay. Or if not, if it's not in like tomorrow when you get the replay, it will be in like as soon as I get all the information, I'll put it under the replay. But that's the one I like. I think it's safe. There have been incidents where people had detached retinas. Those other ones they tell you bend your knees so that you're not shaking. We don't want to shake our brains. So to me, the Maradine's safe. There's no problem, and they have shown that those parameters that they use are effective. And there was one that compared all of them. They said at the end of the day, let's use the safest one. So and that article, Ian, if you're interested, I can connect you to Ian Cutts. He will give you anything you want because there is good, the research is getting better and better.
All right, let's see. Can you talk about peptides, GLP-1s, their effect on bones?
Yeah. I don't do a lot personally with peptides. People love peptides for different things. I mean, it's gotten very big and it's helping with so many different things with digestion and so on and so forth. In terms of GLP-1s, very interesting. I did have a doctor come onto the podcast, and you have to just be really careful. Do you can't just go on those and think that's the end all be all. You have to really be on a good diet. You have to be watched. You have to be exercising, So I think they're amazing. I mean, they've helped so many people, like so many metabolic issues have been helped with it, and you just have to be careful and work with someone. So that's sort of my feeling on them in terms of and it's interesting. There'll probably be more talks on those. As I said, I'm going to the meeting, which is people from it's the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. Yeah, next week. So I always do a podcast afterwards with my husband. We discuss the key things in there. And I think one of the talks is on that. So I will, it's a mix. It's conventional doctors who really know everything in the world about medication. So I'm always like an expert on anything medication when I come back. But there's always new interesting things, and it will be interesting to see. So, but yeah, no, I think they've helped a million people. I think you just have to do it properly.
Can you speak a little bit about the new meds that you mentioned that are better?
Yes, I have to. So Evenity, I mean, I don't know how new that is, but Evenity is, as I said, there's something called sclerostin, and that puts the brakes on bone building. And so when you remove sclerostin, when you reduce it, that's what Evenity does. And people have really gained bone, and it's good for both the hip and the spine. And you're on it for a year, and it's been incredibly helpful. So and you gain the most bone from Evenity. There's also Forteo and Tymlos, which have helped people a lot. So I think you have to do these. You have to know that you can't just stop them. After Evenity, you can't just stop it. You have to go on either reclass. Usually, people go on something called reclass to, because they're building bone. We talked about building bones, and those are called anabolics or bone builders. And then there's ones anti-resorptive. They stop the bone loss. So afterwards, you have to go on something to stop the bone loss. So it's a very long discussion on different. Actually, Dr. McCormick did a phenomenal talk on my summit that I put in the podcast on all the different medications. So I'll just put a ton of links under the class. I'll put that link as well because that was really a great talk on that. But I believe, here's my feeling on it. I feel that to tell someone they shouldn't go on medication and the really red flags I see with the medication, and this is something that I've discussed with Dr. Millman and Dr. McCormick. So I didn't make these up, but these are where someone really needs medication is if their CTX is 800 or more, if they've had fractures, something's going on with their bone, or if their bone density is minus 3.5. Those are like the red flags that maybe, because we don't want someone, if they're really at high risk, to have a fall and fracture. So if we can build up, and that was so great at this conference last year, I actually saw how this medication builds bone. Like you saw new bone being built. It was incredible. So, I do think, again, it's not that I believe in, to me, it's not the first choice, but for certain people, if you're at high risk, build it up, not forever, build it up, do all the other things, figure out your root causes, get on an exercise, eat well, and but at least then, you're not at such high risk for fractures. So it's a long conversation, but the newer meds are there are some new things coming out. So stay tuned. I'm going to present anything new if you listen to my podcast, it's just Happy Bones, Happy Life for those people who don't listen to it. Um, usually it's right after I get back, I do what's new, but that is, those are the medications that have been effective. And there's new things coming out too.
Marge, there's a follow-up to this that I think is probably important. Someone said that they were scared to go on medicine because they were told if they go on meds, they will be on them for life.
No, here's the thing. The one that is scary, and there are certain times, is the Prolia. Okay, because what happens with Prolia, unlike like the Fosamax and the Actonel, that they kill the osteoclast. But the Prolia just like disables them, and they turn into osteomorphs. So you're fine when you're on the Prolia, but when you stop, they can go crazy, and they can start, you lose more bone than you start with. So you have to go on something called reclass to stop that. So no, you do not have to be. No, Evenity's 1 year, and then you go on the reclass for 1 or 2 years. Same thing with Tymlos and Forteo, the bone builders. They're like maybe 2 years that you go on, and then you go on the reclass. Prolia, you shouldn't go on for too long because those cells got crazy, and those osteomorphs. Some people are on that for life, but that's not really. And the only, Prolia is not my favorite, but yet for the reason it is good it's good for the hip. Like Evenity is good for the hip and the spine. Forteo and Tymlos are better for the spine than the hip. Prolia is good for the hip and spine. So there's different things. So no, you don't have to be on it forever. Absolutely not. But you have to know and talk to your doctor about the endpoint. Like you can't just stop Prolia. You'll lose more bone than you gain. You can't just stop any of the other ones. You have to go on something afterwards so that you don't lose bone. Not Actonel, Fosamax, reclass. Those you can just stop anytime, but those don't build new bone. So
Margie, can you talk about exercises that are safe for people with scoliosis, particularly thoracic scoliosis?
yeah, I think the key here is I'm a big believer also seeing a physical therapist. The other thing everything's safe. You just don't want to go too much into your curve. So if you work with a physical therapist, they'll see how you're stabilizing, if you're overdoing it, if you're doing anything to accentuate. So most things are safe. You just need to know how you do it with your curve. Now, fascinating to me is that years ago, I'm working in a hospital in Chicago, in Evanston, and I went on vacation. And another therapist who was also trained in Feldenkrais. I don't know, for those who don't know, Moshe Feldenkrais um, is amazing. And he taught people how to I'm trying to think, I guess how to re-educate the muscles. It's Movement for Life. It's a wonderful program. But anyway, I went on vacation, and so another therapist took over my patients. And guess what happened? When I came back, um, uh-oh. Oh, I got scared. I thought this wasn't recording. I like saw the recording button. And when I came back from vacation, the person was a kid. Her scoliosis was so much better. It was crazy. And so I'm a big believer. If you can find a physical therapist who also is Feldenkrais trained, and Robin, someone in the community who's done numerous classes with us, she does work online. Um, and she's a good friend of mine. Um, and so I can put her information, but but a Feldenkrais practitioner, if you can find someone who's a Feldenkrais practitioner and physical therapist, that's your best bet, I think. But a regular physical therapist can help you what's safe, make sure you're not going too much into the curve, because there's a lot you can do. And there are some people that specialize in this too. So it's Robin Eisen. Um, she's done a couple of classes on Feldenkrais and osteoporosis that are great. I'm a big believer in the Feldenkrais method, but scoliosis, I came back. I was like, what happened to this kid? But I've seen it over and over again. So that would be my suggestion. But again, just work with someone on that because it's very individualized. Everyone's curve is different.
Someone asked about creatine powder.
Yeah, I love it. I've been JJ Virgin created. So I had never taken creatine until started taking JJ Virgin has a creatine hydrochloride. Now all the research is on monochloride, but after learning from JJ that certain people were like getting bloated or having other issues. That's why she worked with the formulator on hydrochloride creatine. So I've been taking that now a couple of years, I guess. I'm trying to think. Maybe we can put that, Liam, or we can get that for people. I don't think you have
Already
it.
got it.
Oh, you already have it?
Yeah.
Liam, you are so on the ball. Anyway, so JJ came on the podcast and I started, but as I said, I I have to take things before I recommend them. So I started taking it, and what I noticed, two things, my nails, which were never bad, they got really better. And my swimming, I'm a swimmer too. I got faster, but I like it. It just helps with muscle repair, and there's good research on it. So I think it's I think it's a win-win, the creatine. But if the monohydrate bothers you, then JJ's product. I mean, I like JJ's product because it tastes good also. I just use if something tastes good, and I don't love fake taste, but yet this one for some reason. Do you take it, Liam? Do you take it too? I know your mom does.
My mom does, I don't, but I included the link for the capsules, for the powder, and for the podcast that you did with
Oh,
JJ.
great.
So
Yeah, listen to it but I do think creatine is good. Again, you have to be careful. You want really good sourced things. You don't want things with a lot of chemicals in it. That's why I like the full script. You have to be super careful. JJ's is not on full script. You have to order that separately. There are some other ones on full script, but yeah, I take it every day. So yes.
there are a couple different there are a lot of different questions about very specific foods. I'm gonna go over just one or two. Can you talk about goat milk for osteoporosis?
Goat milk's fine. I mean, I think in terms of if some people have issues with dairy but they can tolerate goat milk, so it depends. For some people, milk's very inflammatory. For others, it isn't. You always want the cleanest dairy, and the countries that have the most milk have the most osteoporosis. So it's certainly not the panacea like we used to think with the milk mustache. But no, I have no problem with goat milk. A lot of people can tolerate it that can't tolerate regular milk.
And plant-based proteins like tempeh and soy.
Yeah, for some people, those are fine, in terms of, you want to get our protein. So as long as they're clean sources with soy, you know, soy can be very contaminated. So you want organic.
Quick follow-up on the creatine. Do you take designs for health creatine and also the sheatine, or is that too much creatine?
Oh, no. I only take the sheatine. That's plenty. Yeah, no, I wouldn't, you don't want to overdo it either. No, I don't take designs for health. I just take the sheatine. I haven't tried any of the other ones. When JJ came out with this, I tried. I'm not saying any of the other ones are bad. And Designs for Health's a great company. And the key thing that again, I didn't try it, but certain people who were getting like bloated or other issues from it, and so that's why she created the sheatine. But no, I mean, it's certainly the research has been done on the monohydrate, and a lot of people use it with no problems.
We have a couple different questions about bone broth and bone broth powder. Can you talk a bit about those?
Love bone broth. I make it all the time. And very interesting. Mira Desi, one of my good friends, she talked about bone broth on my summit and how you can take it and put in ice cubes and you can just add to the value. It's just so healthy and there's so many good things with collagen and so bone broth powders, that's an interesting question. They're probably, I don't know which ones I'd recommend. If you can't make it, there are some that, it's a good point to look into. I'm not sure which ones. I know, what's her name? What's her name? Kelly Petrucci? I know her and I can't think of her. Kellyanne. She had some that were decent in the past. I don't know if she still sells it or not. So I'm not sure what are the best ones now. I know that when I don't make it, I go to Whole Foods. I'm trying to think of the brand. They have one that's frozen, that's organic. I think it's important to have organic because, when it's so concentrated that you can have toxins from the bone broth. So we don't want chickens that are not good or other bone broth. But anyway, bone broth's great. And I'm someone who thinks it's a really great thing to add, and stocks as well.
Let's see. Do you know anything about Frax Plus?
I'm trying to think what the Frax Plus, the regular one has 14. I don't know how many the Frax Plus has. I'm not sure. Good question. Well, I'm sure it's good though. It gets more, it will give you more number. It's not something in lieu of, but it's just good when you're trying to figure out what to do. It adds all your risk factors together. So I'm not sure if the Frax Plus includes more, it obviously includes more things. I'm not sure. I forgot what they put in it.
Some people might not know what Frax Plus is.
Yeah, the Frax test is, it's a test that they just use when they do the DEXA, and they compile like your statistics and different things. And then they tell you, compiling those, have you had fractures? I don't remember all the questions, but they compile those and it tells you your 10-year risk of having a fracture. So it's an approximation, but it's relatively accurate. And so I don't know. I'll have to look up what the Frax Plus has. If it has, I don't know how many more it has, but it just gives you more information. But I don't know. So I don't remember what that has or how much more it has. If someone knows, write it in. Someone else may know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to everything, by the way. I try to do my best, but I don't know. But when I don't know, I look up. That's what I do, right, Liam? Liam comes with me to all my Q&As. And so when I don't know, I research it and help people. But it's an easy thing to look up.
Can you talk about how a hip fracture causes death and or nursing homes?
Yeah, it's just the complications. Again, this is just the data. So again, you guys who are here learning, hopefully you'll never be one of those statistics, but the statistics aren't good. I think what causes a hip fracture most times is a fall, and but people, when you're in a hospital and people don't have good, people have other issues, they die from other things. It's not typically the hip fracture itself, it's complications, other things happen. So, and then, a lot of people just don't do well. And so they can't be independent afterwards. If someone's really healthy, they fracture their hip, they can be totally perfect. Ideally that's what they want, but this is what we see. But again, not everybody's so healthy. So an older person who fractures a hip, it could be the beginning of a downfall of other systems as well. They're laying in bed, they're not moving. Who knows what happens. But yeah, so hopefully it's none of us. It shouldn't, but those are the statistics in the country.
I know we're close to wrap up time, but there's a
Yes,
couple.
we are going to stop at 4 because I was going to stop at 90 minutes, but I had a feeling this could happen. Yeah, I usually end up. That's why my Q&As now, I just say for the community, I'm like, it's just 2 hours because it always is. Yeah, keep going.
What about playing golf?
Okay, so here's the thing. If you're a golfer, then I would work with someone on learning not how to rotate, how to use your whole back and move in one piece. If you've never played golf, there's a lot of torque in it. So it could increase your risk of fractures. So again, I'm big into not ruining your life. I would see a physical therapist where there's used to be called Back to Golf. I don't know now what they're called, but they're people that work with this so that you can do it safely. And again, it depends on your bone density. It depends on things. I wouldn't start that though, if you have significant osteoporosis.
What about heel drops? Are they okay?
Yeah, I love heel drops. I'll put this, as I said, I will put this with the replay underneath it. But there's one that I love. So I have an exercise. It's called weight bearing exercises. It's on the handout also. If you just go to my website and opt in for that. For those who are listening on YouTube, if you go into margiebissinger.com and just go to the bottom, the exercise sheet. So there's a video on weight bearing exercises, and there's one I like where you support your neck and your lower back, and you go up on your toes and down on your heels twice. It's just that you stay in good posture, and you're getting forces through the bones against gravity. So yes, it's you're getting that impact. But again, you need to do it safely. That's why I like this one. It was someone called Ruthie Alan created it. She was someone who worked with Moshe Feldenkrais, and she created something called Bones for Life, which is a program based on the Feldenkrais. She's no longer alive, but this exercise is really good. And then you can hum with it, and you can get the vagus nerve too. I show that in the video.
I've read that biphosphates are long-term bad for bone health. True?
Bisphosphonates,
Phosphate,
bisphosphonates, that's not bad pronunciation. Bisphosphonates are the Actonel, the Fosamax, Boniva, and even the Prolia. No, not necessarily. And the Reclass, not necessarily, because someone, let's say someone, I mean, for example, someone who, what they do, they stop bone loss. They stop those osteoclasts from going crazy. So there are people after breast cancer, they go on aromatase inhibitors. So that totally increases bone breakdown. So you go on these, you go on the you go on the bisphosphonates, they stop that, and they stop that. And so you don't stay on forever, but no, it has a huge protective effect. So not necessarily, no. And if you're on it for short, I mean, yes, there are side effects, but not for short term, not for short term, not for 2 years. It happens longer term, like the osteonecrosis of the jaw or the femur, what kind of, it's the other kind of femur fracture. They but not short term. So as we haven't seen, it's rare, very rare short term if you're on it for a short period of time.
Weighted vests, are they safe for osteoporosis?
Here's my thought on weighted vests. Okay, the research on them is not good. Okay, I mean when they're good, the time and place to use a weighted vest is only. This is only during, and I did a whole podcast on this too. Only during exercise program. So for short periods of time, if you're trying to increase the force on your bones, then you can wear the weighted vest, right? To give more impact or to give more resistance. People are wearing it like all day long around their house. What I have seen, first of all, the research does not support it. It has not shown increased bone density from doing that. The only research where they went crazy saying, yes, it increased bone density is when they did other exercises in addition to it. So we can't say it was the weighted vest. They did jumping, they did other things, and the weighted vest. They didn't look at the weighted vest by itself. So we'll put that podcast into the vest. But I talk about everything on the podcast. But the point is, what I have seen in other therapists as well is that when you're in that weighted vest, your posture isn't as good. It puts more, like when someone gains weight, it puts more force on their knees, their hips, their back. So, it's not effective. So to me, do your walk, get your good posture. If you want to use it only during exercise sessions, usually, ideally, initially supervised. That's when it could be good, but not where people are doing, like wearing it around the house, wearing it for the walk. It's not effective. It's not enough weight to do anything. So it's sort of a waste. And I think it ruins, could make other joints sore. So that's my opinion. But I have a whole podcast on that with the research and the studies.
Let's see.
And we're going to end pretty soon.
I'm trying to find if there's like a good wrap-up question, but a lot of these are very specific.
Okay, well, as I said, for those people who are in the membership, I do this every month. So, and it's not expensive. As I said, I try to keep things really low. So if you did go into the roadmap, there's like a sign. Otherwise you can put it in, Liam, put in the membership. I mean, into the show notes as well. In this month, it's going to be great. There's one on this month because someone else who works with me is going to be out of town. If you come this month, you'll get this Thursday's class, which is going to be amazing. You'll get the happiness class this month. You'll get it's on the 11th, I think. You'll get the food one next month, and then on with the chef. And then you'll also get my daughter doing the manifestation. So you're going to get a lot more for the $29 than, but anyway, but the point is, if you want, if it's something that you want, the reason I do the membership is so I can help people. I can help people as they get to the next point and the next point, so that was sort of my answer after the summit. All right, let's do the roadmap, give people the information. and then every month have a live class and the happiness and then the membership part. So if you're interested, love for you to join, right, Liam? We have so much fun. It's if anyone's we really have a good and I get to know people. Like I've known people now over the years, and it's fun doing things in community because
We have our regulars.
yeah, it's really great. Anyway, I'm gonna end because at 4 o'clock was sort of my limit. You're so welcome. So hey, come back, everybody. This is how I'm getting. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. Um, so for everybody who's hung in here so long, thank you so much. I'll try to hopefully we'll get this out tomorrow. So here's how we end this. Was this helpful? I hope it was helpful. Thumbs up. It was helpful. Oh, good. So we always like to end with a word. Do we want to say strong bones? Let's just do strong bones or gratitude. I don't know. Let's do strong. Oh, I love this. Thank you, everybody. So fun being with everybody. So unmute, and on the count of three, we'll just say bye. Strong bones, right? So hope you can implement this. And if you have questions, you can always write to my support team, support@margiebissinger.com. And for everybody here, I'll get the replay to you I'm going to give you the slides, so you'll have all the stuff. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So on the count of three, ready, everybody? 1, 2, 3, bye.
Bye. Strong bones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Margie, I'm gonna hop off.
Yes, thank you, Liam. Thank you so much. I just always like to get the chat since I don't see it. Chat.